Hello, my name is Julia. Welcome to my channel. I am a certified Montessori teacher and a mom of a 17, almost 18-month-old named Isaac and a stepmom to an 8-year-old named Asher. Since Isaac is almost 18 months, I thought it time to share with you a book update on some of our favorite and most successful books that we have introduced to him or read to him from 12 to 18 months. If you are new here, I would love for you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified anytime I post a video. I have slowed down a little bit, but I've got a plan. So bear with me. The videos are still coming. If you haven't seen my earlier book update from 6 to 12 months, I will link it in the description below and up here so that you can watch it as well. I know everyone's doing their holiday shopping a little bit earlier this year, so hopefully something in here might give you some inspiration for that. Yeah, let's crack on with it. Let me show you his little bookshelf. This is his little bookshelf, which we have had for a very long time, since he was about 6 months old. On this top section are the books that we have gotten from the library because the library's here free opened. Yeah, and this one too. Yes, the books on his bookshelf here, he is free to come and grab whenever he likes, as well as the ones in his bedroom. Just briefly, these are some of the books that I actually took. There's a hole here where I took a couple just to show before. These are the books that Isaac can have in his room. He's pretty good about, he's not actually able to reach any of these. So that's been nice. But yes, these are the other ones that I keep stored, which you've seen them before. And I should just mention that I tend to rotate through his books on a bi-weekly basis, but that I stagger it. So I'm not switching all the books at once, but I'm switching around kind of row by row or a few books at a time every couple weeks or so. So I have split today's books into 3 kind of categories. Isaac is obsessed with books right now. They are like his TV every day, almost all day. If he's not practicing his gross motor skills, he's wanting to read a book. Since we have renovated his room into more a toddler room, he even will go and select a book from his bookshelf in there and just go sit on his bed and read. It is the sweetest thing to catch him doing that. And he will do that quietly for quite a bit of time. So there are some differences that I've noticed since Isaac has been a year old in how engaged he has become with certain topics versus other topics, and also his attention span in terms of finishing a book. So the first category is going to be all about books that Isaac goes back to over and over again to look at on his own. These are mostly books to do with real people, real faces, and animals, and different scenarios. And so things like the noisy books, I have this one. I have noisy things that go and noisy farm animals. He will go to by himself, loves looking at the pictures, looking at the sounds. I have another really small real life picture book with and he also really likes the sounds that animal makes. So he knows a lot of animal sounds right now. He knows most of his basic farm animals. He also knows things like monkey or owl. And that's just from looking at these books over and over again and repeating the sounds that the animals make. Sometimes just in passing, sometimes he'll point to one and we say the name and we say the sound that it's associated with. This 100 First Animals book has probably been the most successful book. I think I showed this in my last book update. He's had this for a while. It's super well loved. And we've actually started taking his 3D animals and matching them to some of the animals in here. So that's kind of an extra language development that we've done as well. But this one is something that he comes back to all the time, so much so that I actually have it out of rotation right now, just to let some other books come into the forefront, because he'll just go back to this one all the time. He is also really loving books that he can interact with, not only from sounds but also with different movements. So these ones by Matthew Van Fleet he loves because there's flaps that he can pull, and he really enjoys that too. I did, however, have to take away this dog book because I'm noticing that books with flaps in them, he is ripping off the flaps. I'm just trying to show you where he ripped it. He ripped this one off because he's just, oh, it moves, and it moves a little bit too far. I've had to put on pause a couple of the books that have the flaps because he is going and just ripping into them, and we're working on that as well. The next category of books that he has really been enjoying are books where he can interact with the environment. And by the environment, it's mostly looking at other pictures of real people as well as animals. So on his shelf, the Making Faces and the Baby Loves are two books that he also comes back to all the time. Loves looking and interacting with the different faces in here. And in the Making Faces book, he'll go in and he'll kiss himself in the mirror.
And of course, when my husband is reading these books with him, he is translating them into French if they are an English book, as he is doing here.
Other books that have been really appealing to him are books about different homes, although again, because this one has flaps in it, I have taken this away for a little bit. Also books to do with movement, so I can shake my head back and forth, and we try and do that with his own body too. Any book really that has pictures in it of real life objects and things, Isaac will come back to over and over and over again and point them out and want to hear the words for them and just spend a lot of time looking at them. So these books, this one here is just color themed, but you know, there's an animal themed one, there's objects, there's all sorts of books. As long as they have pictures of real life objects in them, Isaac is very drawn to. And we also have two books to do with emotions and different body positions. So this one is about toes, and it's actually, the words are hilarious. Pouncy, bouncy toes. But just looking at the actions and the movements and the expressions that's going on, and Isaac is interacting with that, he's super responsive to seeing those images. And then this one is also about emotions and facial expressions as well, which we are working on with him as well. So saying, oh, this is my happy face and this is my angry face, you know, all that kind of stuff. He's really starting to observe and understand what all of those means, which is a really important skill for toddlers to start learning. And also just different words and different types of motion. So the giraffe runs, the fish swims. So different verbs to do with different creatures and how they move. He's really enjoying that as well. And the third kind of category that I will mention are Isaac's absolute favorites. And you will notice that some of these are considered fantasy books. If you did watch my video on 6 to 12 months, I did talk briefly about Montessori philosophy and books, and how Montessori philosophy really emphasizes keeping fantasy away from children until the age of 7, because children don't have the ability to separate what is fantasy and what is reality until about the age of 7. However, I do acknowledge that in today's world of books and of stories, sometimes the fantastical aspect of a story is outshined by the moral or just the cadence of a story. So you'll see in this section here, I have quite pretty much all the stories are with fictional characters and a fictional setting, but something about them has really resonated with Isaac. So number one, numero uno, the Gruffalo. This kid will read the Gruffalo. He'll take the Gruffalo to me and I'll read it to him. And then he'll take it to his papa and papa will read it to him and sometimes translate it in French to him. And then he'll take it to Asher and Asher will read it to him.
There's no such thing as a Gruffalo. I'm a mouse and teeth are good. But I was a mouse and the mouse looked good.
And then he'll come back to me over and over and over and over and over again. This kid loves the Gruffalo. It's his favorite story. So much so that we got the Gruffalo's child just to try and shake things up a little bit because we were all going a little bit insane reading the Gruffalo over and over and over again. And actually, these ones are out of rotation right now for our sanity. So yes, number one. Also, a long time ago, I was looking for this book and couldn't find it in a couple of the bookstores that I was in. But I did find this one, the Pout Pout Fish. And I wasn't thrilled by it. It's a funny little book, but it's with expressions and emotions with a fish. However, there's a whole series of Pout Pout Fishes, and this is definitely one of his favorites. He adores this story, and after the Gruffalo will usually come and pick this one to read, so much so that we got another one in the series to read and work on as well. So help. Another Julia Donaldson book that Isaac really loves the story of as well is The Snail and the Whale. Yeah, Isaac's ability to sit through an entire story has really changed. So with the Gruffalo, for example, I've been reading that to him since he was born. And we would never get further than the first couple pages, or I'd just end up flipping through and, oh, there's the fox and there's the owl and just pointing out the characters. But he'll sit through an entire story right now and is raptly attentive to it. Also, we also got him Where the Wild Things Are. I was hesitant in getting him this book because it is such a fantastical story. But he really loves sort of Gruffalo looking creatures. And it's one of those stories, like this, that it's just so classic in our society and globally even. Just some of these stories, like Dr. Seuss, right? Dr. Seuss would probably make Maria Montessori and her philosophies turn in her grave a little bit. But they have become such an integral part of the culture and the storytelling that happens in our culture. So I think that importance outweighs the adhering to the philosophy. I did title this video Flexible Montessori as well for a reason. And this is a story about the journey of a seed. And so it goes through the seasons and it goes through the life cycle of a seed and a plant, basically. And you'll notice that I don't have any books in here that are seasonal, really, or fall themed, or this and that. I do think that those books are much more effective for an older toddler or preschooler who is learning more about the different seasons and what happens and the changes and life cycles of various other things. So a book like this is really just a tiny little start into all these books. So if you do have a child who is getting to the preschool age, I would consider looking for books that specifically talk about life cycles or migrations or journeys, that kind of thing, because that's a fascinating topic for older toddlers and preschoolers. The rainbow fish is the third favorite, I'd say, after the Gruffalo and the Pout Pout fish books. This one I got, it's a bilingual book, so the top half is in English and the bottom half is in French. So if one day I want to read it to Isaac in English, I can, and if the next day my husband wants to read it to him in French, he can. And so that's how we are, those are some of the ways that we incorporate the bilingualism into our home a little bit as well. And you know, other Canadian classics like Robert Munch, we read all the time. And finally, this isn't really a category, but it's they're sort of topics that I'm starting to introduce. Like I mentioned, the topics of life cycles and of natural journeys, that kind of thing. Another topic is sort of differences. Some families have two fathers, and some families have one mom, and some live with an aunt, and some are adopted, and just getting that language familiar with Isaac and getting him comfortable with the idea that families are different. So another one we found from the library was this one, which is It's Okay to Be Different. And it's not necessarily about families, but it's another one about differences and being different, and that's okay.
So, it's like 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and this guy's been up for, 10 minutes, and I can't believe, bring it here. I can't believe I forgot to include these two books on our list. Oh gosh. Isaac. So that big one is Brown Bear, What Do You See? And we also have Baby Bear down there. And Are You My Mother has also become a huge favorite. Are you going to read that one by yourself, or am I reading that one with you? Oh, okay.
So, those are a bunch of books that have been wildly popular with Isaac during the 6-month period. I expect that some of them will continue to be popular, and I expect that as we introduce new books, those will be popular. Let me know in the comments if your child right now has any book that they're obsessed with and they want to read over and over and over and over again. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, stay sane, and I'll see you next time.